The Paris Olympics opening ceremony is a little less than 4 weeks away. Organizers have set a lofty goal: generate less than half the greenhouse gas emissions of the last two summer games. And it's not just the Olympics. Across the sports world, there's a new opponent: climate change. Jeffrey Brown reports on how the changing climate is changing the game.
The crack of the bat, a throw from the outfield. On hallowed ground in American sports, Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, New York, it's time for that great baseball tradition, the pregame warm-up. But these days, here as everywhere, warm-up means something much more.
Every professional sports community in the United States is being affected by climate change.
Alan Hershkowitz is the Environmental Science and Sustainability Advisor for the New York Yankees, the first environmental scientist hired by a pro team across all sports. At his urging, the Yankees became the first North American pro team to sign a United Nations pledge to bring down greenhouse gas emissions, because, he says, the stakes are too high.
So there is an urgency because guess what? Children are not going to be able to play baseball outside. People are not going to be able to play tennis outside. Something's got to give.
The last 10 years have been the warmest ever recorded. It's pushed the globe into new and uncharted territory, and it's pushing sports to its limits.
The big issue with climate change, the one that's at the top of every sports scientist's mind right now, is heat.
Madeline Orr is a sports ecologist and author of a new book, Warming Up: How Climate Change is Changing Sport. She used baseball to highlight how rising temperatures have fueled the weather disasters that affect sports' bottom line. The powerful thunderstorms that cause rain delays. The churning hurricanes that have completely swamped ballparks. The massive wildfires that bring dystopian scenes and sometimes game postponements.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a facility manager who's not worried about storms and wildfire and heat and all these things. They know about it. For a very long time, though, the assumption has been, oh, it's a one-off. And that's really a dangerous assumption, because you'll clean up that mess and not necessarily put in place the adaptations that are going to help reduce the risks next time.
One player going to die, and they're going to see.
Indeed, sports are trying to adapt, from implementing rest periods at the U.S. Open to help players cope with extreme heat, to holding the 2019 World Championship Marathon in Qatar at midnight to avoid unsafe temperatures. For baseball, one adaptation: roofs, taking fans not out to the ball game, but in. But experts, including Madeline Orr, note that adaptations only go so far.
On the winter side, it's essentially, are we going to have a season at all? That's the question. And it's because we're not getting as much snow, and where we are getting snow, it's just melting too fast. So the solution for 50 years has been, we will make snow artificially and blow it out of these guns, but you can make snow all you want. And if it's not cold enough outside for the snow to stick on the ground, it's going to melt.
On the trails of Mount Bachelor in Bend, Oregon, Olympian cross-country skier Gus Schumacher is living that reality. He's not able to rely on snow that's been there in the past.
We've shifted our camp a little bit earlier just so we make sure we get on good snow.
We reach Schumacher as he trained for the Alpine Skiing World Cup and the next Winter Olympics. Conditions on this day, not bad. But that wasn't the case back in February, when he raced in the American Birkebeiner in northern Wisconsin.
This year was my first year, and there was not a drop of snow on the entire length of trail from Cable to Hayward. Like, the actual trail was totally dry.
The warmest winter in 130 years reduced the 50-kilometer race to a man-made loop of entirely artificial snow.
Climate change has dramatically altered the conditions for winter sports, including Nordic skiing.
Schumacher has grown so concerned that earlier this year he traded his ski gear for a suit and appeared on Capitol Hill with the advocacy group Protect Our Winters to share his experience.
Rising temperatures have led to shorter and more erratic winter seasons, with snow cover becoming increasingly unreliable.
We took the opportunity to say, these are the things that we can do to try to stay ahead of reducing our carbon footprint. So, big or small, we're turning over every stone.
Back at the ballpark, we met Doug Behar, Yankees Senior Vice President of Stadium Operations.
Natural cooling, you could feel the breeze come through.
He showed us some of the ways the Yankees are trying to mitigate climate change, not just adapt to it. Starting at the cavernous Great Hall, where fans enter the stadium. Constructed in an eco-friendly manner, it doesn't require air conditioning. Where cooling is required,
A little bit like being in the bottom of a ship or something. Yes.
a new water-based cooling system is much more energy efficient. Recycling and compost bins in every concourse, packaged food given away to shelters after every game. All of it leads to less electricity use and less food waste, which means fewer greenhouse gases that warm the planet.
90% of our environmental work the fans don't see because they relate to our equipment. They don't know that we're using LED lights that reduced our lighting emission by 60%. You know, a lot of it is invisible.
What's much more visible, Alan Hershkowitz says, is the influence sports and athletes have on millions.
Guess what? They learn from their sports organization. Sports loyalty is handed down generation to generation. Less than 20% of Americans regularly follow science. Over 80% regularly follow sports. The most influential role models are athletes. If athletes are selling cars, if they're endorsing banks, if they're selling pizza, why can't they sell environmental literacy?
The Yankees haven't won a championship since 2009, but they're off to a great start this year. Doug Behar sees plenty more to do on and off the field.
The Yankees are doing our best to try to stay ahead of the curve, lead where we can, and certainly do all the things that are necessary to be productive and responsible.
While winning championships.
Absolutely.
For PBS News Weekend, I'm Jeffrey Brown at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx.